Do that thing where you say hi to each other or sit down or whatever you're most comfortable with. Welcome, family. We got some old timers back in the house today. My heart sings with joy. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus."
I said goodbye to my son, and in that moment, I realized how God must have felt, saying goodbye to his son at the crucifixion. Brian Birdwell was burned on over 60% of his body during the 9/11 attack on the Pentagon. He experienced excruciating pain and wanted God to end his life. But through his suffering, he found a deeper understanding, an understanding of God's love and sacrifice. I said goodbye to my son, and in that moment, I realized how God must have felt, saying goodbye to his son at the crucifixion.
Give thanks in all circumstances. It doesn't say in pleasant circumstances. Fleas are part of this place where God has put us. Corrie ten Boom and her sister Betsy were imprisoned in Ravensbrück concentration camp for hiding Jews. Their barracks were overcrowded and infested with fleas. Betsy insisted they obey God for everything, including the fleas. Corrie resisted, but later learned that the fleas kept guards away, allowing them to hold secret Bible studies. Give thanks in all circumstances. It doesn't say in pleasant circumstances. Fleas are part of this place where God has put us.
Gratitude has the power to turn our scars into stars. Pastor Joshua Chun-Min Kang experienced deep emotional pain and personal loss after losing his ministry. This period of suffering led him to reflect deeply on the nature of gratitude. Rather than viewing gratitude as a reaction to favorable circumstances, he embraced it as a spiritual discipline, a deliberate practice that helped him reinterpret his pain through the lens of grace and healing. Gratitude has the power to turn our scars into stars.
Am I going to let my circumstances determine my view of God, or am I going to let God determine how I view my circumstances? Christian singer Laura Story's husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor early in their marriage. His permanent disabilities changed their life drastically. Laura struggled with disappointment, but eventually found gratitude in spiritual growth and surrender. Am I going to let my circumstances determine my view of God, or am I going to let God determine how I view my circumstances?
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Amy. Give thanks in all circumstances, even when there's fleas. For this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. God rocks. Jesus is King. He's given me generous victory over alcohol, pornography, a variety of hard drugs, and all kinds of weird, crazy stuff that goes on inside my head, primarily striving and affirmation seeking and perfectionism. My name is Dan. So how many people here tonight feel like they can honestly say they regularly practice an attitude of gratitude? It's just kind of part of your daily choice. It's who you are. It's what you do. All right, a few folks. So any of you folks who put your hands up, would you be comfortable just speaking up really loud and saying, how did you get there? How did you get to that place of gratitude, and how valuable is that to you in your life? Go ahead.
Just feeling God, or realizing the blessings God's given me every day.
Yeah.
And just being grateful for that every single day, and my day, grateful for getting through.
And how valuable is that gratitude in your life?
So valuable. It humbles me, and it keeps me focused.
Yeah, it's really good. So look, I wrote out, thank you. I wrote out this whole intro to get everybody engaged, but I think I really want to get to the end part. We've got some cool question and answer stuff to do, and I want to leave as much time for that. So if we can all agree on 2 points, I'm going to skip the intro and we'll keep moving. One, can we all agree that gratitude is fantastic? It's a wonderful thing. We love it. It feels good. It has powerful impacts all throughout our entire life, emotionally, relationally, spiritually. Can we all agree? All right. Brilliant. Can we all agree that we'd like to experience more gratitude in our lives, that there's space for us to probably do some different things, make some different choices, and experience a lot more gratitude, or are we just like maxed out? I couldn't stand any more gratitude if I had to. So we all agree? Brilliant. Moving on. Look at this. I'm just paging and paging past all these notes. By the way, if you go to the CR 411 and you download the teaching notes for today's Gratitude 2025 version, there's like 2 pages of actual scientific reference papers in there demonstrating the reality of what we just claimed and agreed on. So vision for tonight. I've got one overarching goal. I want to help everybody in this room see gratitude as an attitude that we can choose, that it's available to us, that we can be accountable, that we have options, that it's a decision, instead of relying on our circumstances to choose for us, whether we get to experience gratitude or not. And hopefully, we're going to get into a fairly deep understanding of how that might work, and also give you some tools and some practices to take home with you that we're going to encourage you to do every single day so you can experience more gratitude. So, skipping. Great. Sounds good. I'm in favor of gratitude. How do we get there? Right? That's what you're all asking. Dan, you've sold me. I'm fully motivated. I'm all the way in. Awesome. So we often think about gratitude as a reaction, something that we feel when life is good, when things go our way, when someone treats us fairly, when things fall as we like. But what if gratitude wasn't reactionary? What if it wasn't a response to favorable conditions? What if it was instead a principled stance? A way of seeing the world that benefits us regardless of what's happening. A decision that we make at the beginning of the process and then use that filter to color how we perceive the rest of our day. What would that be like? That would be pretty cool, right? Do you think it's possible? I'm not convinced is an okay answer at this point. I think it's possible. Life consists of facts. We talk about this all the time, right? Only the things that 100 non-biased, competent observers would agree on 100% of the time are facts. Everything else, all the judgments, all the feelings, all the conclusions, everything else are all the stories that we tell to wrap those facts in meaning. Understanding that critical concept sets us up to make a critical choice. We can choose to accept the fact, the reality of God's perfect love that surrounds us all the time. We can make that choice, and we can choose to trust God in all circumstances. And we can look for opportunities to be grateful in all situations. The stories of gratitude in the midst of terrible suffering were heard earlier on, and our own testimonies illustrate that reality. I mean, think about it. Every time somebody gets up here to tell a testimony, whether it's Lizzie or Izzy or Joe Platt or John Lee or whoever it was, yeah, Uncle Lino's testimony for sure, my testimony, everybody who gets up here talks about having walked through some real crap and coming out the other side in gratitude. And in most cases, I almost want to say all cases, they're not just grateful for coming out the other side, they're grateful for the garbage that they walked through, because that part of the journey was necessary. It was important. It helped them get closer to Jesus in a way they could never have gotten before, and it transformed them in a beautiful, beautiful way. We can choose gratitude as a principled stance rather than passively allowing our circumstances to choose when and where we get to be grateful. So let's talk about some of the stories that we tell ourselves. Some of those stories generate a victim mentality, and we know that victims suffer. And we also know, or hopefully we know by now, that there are faith-based stories that we can choose to tell ourselves instead. And again, the first choice is choosing gratitude, choosing to trust God as a principled stance and receiving the rest of our life experiences through that filter. I say to myself, I encourage you to say to yourself, I will receive the blessing of this day in gratitude. Actually, go ahead, let's practice that right now. I will receive the blessing of this day in gratitude. Believe it. So we can choose gratitude stories instead of, I deserved better than this. Yeah, does that ring any bells for anybody in the house? Anyone say that over the course of this last week? We can choose to take the position that everything I have is grace. God owes me nothing, yet gives me everything I truly needed. For those of you who enjoy a good fill-in, that's, right? I mean, it's not just those of us who wrestle with ADD. I mean, a lot of us just like that small endorphin hit we get for filling in those blanks. Anyway, if you're into it, they're there. If you find that insulting to your intelligence, don't fill them in by all means. But your first blank, for those of us playing tonight, is everything. Everything I have is grace. God owes me nothing, yet gives me everything I truly need. Instead of, if I were capable, none of this would have gone wrong. Right. We can choose to take the position that God is sovereign. I am not. My role is faithfulness, not omnipotence. Instead of, no one understands my pain. You know, this may or may not be a surprise to you, but that's big amongst the men in the room. Lots of us manly men like to think that we're just suffering in this silent solitude sort of way, and no one really understands our pain. Instead of that, we can choose to believe that Christ entered human suffering, and he understands completely. Instead of, my misery is because of them, we can choose to believe that others may hurt me, but I am responsible for how I respond. Any of these hitting home for anybody here? I know the first half is. I've heard it from most everybody in this room when I've talked to them, and I've certainly heard it from myself. Instead of, oh, this is a good one, I'm powerless. Nothing I do matters. We can choose to take the position that I'm grateful, that I'm able to make choices, and with each small step, I can learn and grow. In response to that same I'm powerless, nothing I do matters, I appreciate the progress I've made and trust that God can use my efforts to create change. Everybody keeping up? Am I going too fast? That's what I like about the fill in the blanks, is it reminds me to slow down and give people time to process what I'm talking about, instead of just racing through to the next point. Instead of, if I do everything right, I'll finally be at peace. That is my mantra. Oh, man. We can choose to take the position that I am already loved and accepted in Christ, and that obedience flows from. What's your guess? What does obedience flow from? Yes. I guess it's not much of a guess. I put it up on the screen, didn't I? Right on. All right, so time to get out your phones. I think we all had a really good time doing this last week. I got a lot of positive feedback, so hit that QR code. I'm going to throw some more poll questions on the screen. We're going to go through them together, and I'm going to do my best to explain what I think is going on behind each of them. Just know that I was rewriting this to the last possible moment. So if sometimes what I'm reading isn't what you're seeing on the screen, that's fine. You don't need to point it out to me. I'm plenty humble already. Just give me grace, and we'll keep moving. All right, another few seconds. I don't see anybody's, no, one more guy, all right. All right, Gruber, you can do it. I got total faith in you. You got it? All right, got a couple more folks. Good, good, good. It's a lot more fun if you get your phone out and participate, I promise. All right, we all ready to move forward? Anybody need more time? Brilliant. Give us the results page. Square. Where do attitudes come from? Are they inherent, generic? Do we receive them directly from our parents? Are they learned? Are they a product of our experiences? Do we choose them? Are they automatic responses? Inherent, generic, that's an interesting response. I don't think they're coded into our DNA, It may feel that way sometimes because so much of our experience right from the time we're as young as Heather's beautiful, beautiful little baby, we are around our parents and their attitudes are part of our experience, and so we learn those attitudes from our parents. But I don't think they're in our DNA. We definitely pick them up from the people we look at on social media, if we watch the news, our favorite sports figures, our friends, the people on stage, whoever it is. But I'm arguing today that we also choose all of our attitudes, that there's an option of a portion of decision in there. And yeah, sometimes they feel like they're automatic reactions, just like the stories that we tell ourselves to surround the facts just come so quickly, they feel like they're true, but they're not. They're not automatic reactions. All right. This is always nerve-wracking, thinking it's not going to load. Question 2. Where would a gratitude attitude come from? Beliefs and core values, training and practice, choice and commitment. Oh, that's interesting. I know I changed that last option to be not nearly so awkwardly worded. It's the same content. It's supposed to be humility and a love for serving rather than humility and service intention. But it's the same deal. Same deal. Question or option number 4 is humility and a love for serving. I'm reassuring myself that I'm not so old that I've lost my mind, because I thought I changed them last night and I got here this morning and they're like, oh, these aren't right. I must have forgot to change them, but I know I changed them this afternoon, so something funky's going on. I probably didn't hit the save button. Anyway, less about me, more about the questions. Belief in core values, absolutely. The things that you hold to be super important, your principles, your values, those determine everything about you and the way you think and act. That's where it all starts and moves up from there. Can you train and practice your attitudes? If you're intentional about it, if you say to yourself, I want to work on this attitude, and that attitude, absolutely. I remember right after COVID, or right during COVID, man, when the whole world was on fire and the right and the left hated each other and everybody was blaming everybody for everything, man, I bought into a lot of that rhetoric. And I realized one day, man, this is brutally awful. I've got this horrible attitude of judgment and resentment towards the people who don't agree with me. And I chose to not do that anymore. And it made a huge difference. Choices and commitment. Yeah, absolutely. You guys are catching on with the theme. We can choose, and you can't just choose, you have to commit. It's a process. It's like forgiveness. You don't just say, hey, I'm going to forgive Victor for falling asleep while I'm teaching in step study. I gotta forgive Victor over and over again, all night long, every night. And humility and service intention. I would agree that yes, being humble and having a love for service helps you have a good attitude. Question number 3. Consider this scenario. Someone, if you like, personalize this and make it you, is overlooked for recognition despite contributing significantly. No one has ever been there, right? You've never been there at work or at home? My daughter feels like she's there frequently. Others are praised, excuse me, while their efforts go unnoticed. For example, read this silently to yourself. Thank you, much better. Jan's been silently working to the point of exhaustion to bring in the extra money they need to take care of the house and kids and support her husband, but all he does is complain. And when she tries to confide in her mom, she just tells her it's the wife's duty and to quit being a spoiled brat. Her quote is, I'm so exhausted I can't find the time and energy to even think. What do I have to be thankful for? A jerk husband, kids that have no clue and are fully focused on themselves, a mom who has no empathy, and exhaustion? So my question to you is it possible to feel grateful without external validation? No, recognition is essential. I appreciate your honesty. There are definitely times I've felt that way in my life, for sure. I get it. Maybe, but it's hard. Man, I really like that answer a lot. Maybe, but it's hard. There's some honesty and some authenticity in that. Look, I know the right answer is supposed to be yes. Dan has hammered that into me already, but I'm going to go with maybe it's hard. Yes, if I value myself. I went round and round and round. There's a few folks who helped me put together these lessons, and we talked about whether valuing yourself was critical to being able to experience gratitude. And I believe we reach, thank you very much, the conclusion that they're closely tied, but we strongly believe that you can choose gratitude, except for possibly if you're stuck in a same shame situation, then gratitude is probably not available to you until you address enough of your self-image to climb out of shame. And of course, that comes in my mind from choosing to trust God and choosing that you are loved and cared for by God. And then last, absolutely, gratitude is, here's the change that's supposed to say, absolutely, it's an internal choice, not a reaction to something external. Good, we're killing it. Number 4, considering these same scenarios, what beliefs, core values, or principles could anchor your gratitude in this situation? Integrity and purpose, faith and service, growth and learning, love and humility. Are we more likely to be able to choose gratitude if we are people of integrity and have purpose? You can tell you're a bunch of Christians in the room. We're big believers in faith and service. That's good. We've indoctrinated you well. Perfect. You can't just attend church. You got to serve church. That's right. Growth and learning, love and humility. Yeah, I would argue there's no wrong answer up here. I think those are all solid. If you found yourself in a similar scenario, how might a gratitude attitude help you respond constructively than react emotionally? It wouldn't help. All right? Yeah, no, by all means, double down on that first answer. It might calm me down. No one's buying that gratitude is going to calm them down. That's great. It might help me reflect before reacting. It might empower me to act wisely. Really, no one thinks having an attitude of gratitude would help you calm down? Really? Huh. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, good. Excellent. I've talked you into it. Now that you mention it, and I see that I can pick more than one answer, yes. Let's see, we've tripled the idea. Right? If we respond with gratitude, gratitude works against a lot of those negative things in our mind. Gratitude works against resentment. Gratitude works against self-pity. Gratitude allows us sometimes to hit that circuit breaker, reflect on Christ's presence and process in our life, and move forward from there. Question 6, consider this scenario. Someone is in emotional pain with no clear cause. Dean woke up feeling heavy, anxious, and sad. There's no obvious trigger, just a deep sense of foreboding and fear. His quote is, "I really try to stay positive and look at the positive, but no matter what I do, everything feels dark and hopeless. I think I just don't belong in this world. I am a mistake." Good, this one did take. What would need to change for you or for Dean to find gratitude in this scenario? Choosing to trust that you are indeed a child of God and therefore a highly valued, and you completely belong. Ignoring your feelings and thoughts. Acknowledging your feelings and thoughts, but knowing that they are not reality. Identifying the stories and the facts and choosing to take action on the facts. Whew, a little disappointed in that last number. I feel like that's what we've been trying to teach here for the last several weeks. Separating out facts from stories, recognizing that the stories are stories and not facts, and choosing to act on the facts rather than act. Look, it's not too late to choose option 4. Is that flogging the audience? Am I guilty of flogging right there? No, that's good pedagogy, right? That's instructional. Those really funny because I gotta go back up to the top to forward, then I go back up to find my question. You don't care though. Can gratitude be a tool for grounding even when you don't feel okay? I love this first response. No, it feels fake. That is totally a sincere response for me. No, absolutely feels fake. Maybe with effort. Yeah, I like that one again. Lots of sincerity and authenticity there. Yes, it helps me stay present. Yeah, absolutely, it's a lifeline. Man, those last two questions, I think, are really reflective of the process of Celebrate Recovery. Right? We all show up here and we are broken and we are desperate and we're not sure if there is help for us. We're not sure if there is hope, but we stick it out. We come back how many times? 6 times, yeah. That would be the easier question. What do? We keep coming back, right? And sooner or later we figure out that even though I don't feel okay, I'm loved. There's people here that love me. And it becomes this grounding thing. It helps us stay present. And for many of us, in a very literal sense, it becomes an actual lifeline. What would it mean for someone who is in an emotional pain with no clear cause to be grateful for the capacity to feel, reflect, or heal? It's confusing. It's a new idea. It's empowering. It's deeply meaningful. Right? Think back to those stories, not those stories, those testimonies, those quotes we heard at the beginning. This one for me is personal. I think I may have written this one myself without outsourcing at all. I can't tell you how frequently I find myself wrestling with anxiety, sitting in emotional pain, and I ask myself why, or I tell someone I love and I care about, man, I'm really wrestling with anxiety, and they ask me why. And sometimes I just don't know. If I've got the luxury of sitting quietly in space and really delving and trying to think about it, I can often figure out why I think it's going on, but not always. But if I can be grateful in those moments for the capacity to feel, for the capacity to reflect and stop and consider that I'm not just out drinking and raising hell, but that I've actually stopped and I can reflect and I can be grateful for the healing, even in the midst of feeling crappy and kind of powerless because I don't even know why I feel crappy. Yeah, that is deeply meaningful. If you found yourself in a similar scenario, how might practicing gratitude in this moment shift your relationship to the pain itself? It's getting real now, right? If you got your phone out earlier and you scanned these QR codes and you're looking at these answers and really thinking about them in an applied sense, and by the way, pulling back the curtain, that's why we use this tool. So it's not just me here talking at you, it's you really looking at these questions. Man, think about these answers here. If you found yourself in a similar scenario, how might practicing gratitude in that moment shift your relationship to the pain itself? Because sometimes pain is a fact. Sometimes pain is a part of our existence, our life, and our reality, and we can choose to resist it, or we can choose to accept it. And we can choose to accept that in the midst of our pain, we are loved, we are valued, we are cared for, and God is doing something, whether we know it or understand it in the moment, or maybe we've got to wait 10 years to figure out what God was doing. It transforms how we carry it. Maybe it softens the pain, maybe it doesn't. I think for some folks it does. For me, sometimes it does. But it definitely transforms how we carry it. Consider Viktor Frankl. You all heard the name Viktor Frankl before? Yeah. He was a psychiatrist and a Holocaust survivor who endured unimaginable suffering in 4 different concentration camps, despite starvation, beatings, and the loss of his family. He described moments of profound gratitude, especially when imagining his wife's face in the clouds. He said, "Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. The salvation of man is through love and in love." So the question is, can gratitude, you guys are on this one, can gratitude be rooted in love or memory even when everything else is stripped away? Yeah. Yeah. That's really hopeful. To be in a room with this many people and to see that percentage of folks saying yes. Love can transcend suffering. Amen. What does it mean to be grateful for the ability to choose your attitude? It reflects inner freedom. It's a coping mechanism. It's a philosophical stance. It's unrealistic in extreme suffering. See, this is really cool. When we were putting this together, we were thinking, yeah, it's great. It's going to engage people, and they're really going to enjoy that, and they're going to be present. But I think also we're going to be secretly teaching at the same time. Right? As you start to consider these questions and understand the context behind them and the answers, yeah, I'll bet more than 3 people when they walked in this room today thought that it was unrealistic in the face of extreme suffering. But some progress has been made here tonight. Inner freedom for sure. Inner freedom for sure. How might this kind of gratitude help someone endure suffering with dignity? It preserves humanity. It offers mental resilience. It inspires others. It provides empowerment in the face of helpless victimhood and despair. Yeah. Y'all are a pretty sharp crowd. Uncle Lino told me that you weren't going to get any of these questions right. Yes, very much so. All right. Thank you all for participating. That was good fun. Back to the presentation. Frankl chose to focus on love, meaning, and inner freedom. He believed that even in suffering, one could choose their attitude and find purpose. His gratitude was not for the situation, but for the ability to remain human and love deeply. All right, so in closing, you've got homework there on that sheet. I can't convey to you enough that we talk about things in here, and it feels good. And lots of times, if I've done my job and you've done your job, we learn things, and we learn important things. If it stops here, it's just slightly better than useless because we did it together in community. But if anything I said or anything you thought, anything you learned tonight made sense to you, and you would like to experience more gratitude, man, do your homework. Lean into this. The journey to a better quality of life and more resilient recovery only begins here. Your success is determined by how successfully you partner with God. So here are some ways you can carry what you've learned into practice. Deepen your relationship with Jesus and build your ability to trust by practicing spiritual disciplines, including those we talked about 2 weeks ago, or was it 4 weeks ago, with relapse. Slow down, silence and solitude, prayer, self-examination, confession. Keep coming back. Intentionally use feelings of resentment and self-pity as reminders and invitations to choose gratitude instead. And on the back, we've included top 10 ways to choose gratitude. So finally, in closing, I invite you to imagine what our small slice of creation might be like if even half of us made the commitment right here and right now to choose gratitude as the filter that we experience life through. Thanks for letting me share.